Hi guys, this is Dr. Divya Pradhan, and today we are going to talk about population ecology. So when we talk about population ecology, definitely we are going to come across some terms, and the first term is density. Density is nothing but the number of individuals per unit area. All right, so individuals per unit area. And of course the distribution, so we are going to talk about population distribution, which is the pattern of dispersal of individuals across an area. And of course the pattern, this pattern is going to be dependent upon what? On the availability of resources, which could be what? Living or the abiotic and the biotic. Okay. There are also something called limiting factors. These are the environmental aspects that particularly determine where the organism lives. So of course the patterns that you can see, you could see clumped, you could see random, you could see uniform, and then finally you could see a range. You'll come across another word called range, and range is the portion of the globe where the species can be found. All right, the population annual growth rate now depends upon number of factors. It depends upon number of individuals that are born, number of individuals that die, the birth rate, the death rate, and the annual immigration and emigration. Immigration, you understand, is moving into the area. Emigration is the number leaving the area. This would be the population annual growth rate. Biotic potential, we come across another term called biotic potential, is the highest possible growth rate. So how is it achieved? It is achieved when resources are unlimited. And what does it depend upon? It depends upon the total number of offsprings reproduced, so the number of offsprings that are produced per year, the chances of survival. So what are the chances of survival? Then how often each individual, so how often does each individual reproduce? And finally, at what age does reproduction begin for these individuals? So here, as you can see in the figure, biotic potential is dependent upon many factors, and among them is the number of offsprings per reproductive event. You can see the pig reproduces many offsprings that quickly mature, and therefore they have a very high biotic potential. Rhinoceros, this is a double-horned rhinoceros, produces only 1 or 2 offsprings, and it is very infrequent reproductive event, and so of course it has a lower biotic potential. All right. Survivorship curves. So there are 3 types of survivorship curves. One is seen in the mammals. They survive well past the midpoint of lifespan. So death does not come until near the end of the lifespan. 2 is the hydra, songbirds, mammals, where the survivorship decreases throughout the lifespan. Last but not the least is the third, the one with oysters or invertebrates and fishes. Most of the offsprings die very young, so the survivorship is very, very low. They have a very poor survivorship curve. There are 3 types of survivorship curves, as you can see. So based on that, we can draw a population size change, a population age group pattern. Okay, so here the population, to draw this population age structure diagram, we need to take into account 3 ages. 1, pre-reproductive, reproductive, and post-reproductive. Just to give you a simple example, pre-reproductive for human beings would be what? From 0 to 14. Reproductive would be 15 to say 35, and say post-reproductive will be after 35, or say after 35. Okay. And this is just a ballpark. I'm just giving an example. All right, there can be few exceptions. So population differs according to what proportion falls in each age group. So here is the pyramid shaped increasing population. Why is it increasing? Because you are seeing huge, the maximum number of individuals are in pre-reproductive, very few in the post-reproductive. So as there are very few people that are dying, birth rate is much higher than the death rate. All right. Stable population, or the bell-shaped population, the size of the reproductive here equals to the pre-reproductive, and the reproductive are equal. The post-reproductive is smallest. Excuse me. Decreasing population, of course, is the one which is urn-shaped, and here the birth rate is way below the death rate. So in the pre-reproductive, there's very small population, and the post-reproductive is the largest. So a very simple question, where would you want the population to be? Of course you would want the population to be in this age group, that is in the bell-shaped diagram. You want the stable population. All right, so here we are going to draw the growth curve. All right, and this is the number of organisms over time. So based on this, there are two types of growth curves. But again, what determines the growth curve? Well, two factors determine the growth curve. First is the biotic potential. Remember, we talked about the biotic potential, right? And second is the availability of the resources. So how much of resources are available? What's the biotic potential? Based on that, there are two types of growth curve. J-shaped growth curve, which is the exponential growth curve, and the analogy can be drawn from the compound interest in a bank. The more your money increases, the more interest you will get, right? So here there are two phases, the lag phase and the exponential growth phase. The lag phase is the slow, because the number of individuals in the population is small. The exponential growth phase is when the population is accelerating, because of course biotic potential is being realized. All right, so here the resources are unlimited. So this will continue as long as the resources are available. As soon as the resources the potential is reached, these become limited. Then what happens is population size or population growth will decrease. There will be sharp decline in the growth. There will not be any growth, there will be mostly death. The second growth curve is the logistic growth curve. So the logistic growth curve, as resources decrease, population growth levels off. This is a S-shaped growth curve, okay? And here there are four phases. The lag phase. In the lag phase, the growth is slow. Number of individuals in the population is small. Then is the exponential growth phase. Okay, here the biotic potential is being realized. Why? Because the resources right now are unlimited. But as soon as the resources become limited, the population doesn't start dying off. Instead, it goes into deacceleration phase. Now competition starts. Now the resources are limited. So deacceleration has started. Growth is slowing down. Then we come to something called a stable phase. Here, where there's little or no growth. And here, because birth and death, in this phase, the birth rate and the death rate is going to remain the same. All right. So here, this is reached when the carrying capacity K, it is always below the carrying capacity of that particular environment. What is carrying capacity? Carrying capacity is the total number of individuals that can support the total number of individuals that the resources can support in that environment, in that particular area for an extended period of time. So always the population size, this stability will be reached below the carrying capacity. All right. And of course, you need to understand that the stable equilibrium is not, the number is not constant and differs for different species. You understand that, right? This type of growth curve is also termed as density dependent because growth rate depends upon the number present in the population. All right. Now you may ask, what is the application? Well, application is, remember, human beings, they always are using fish population, right, as a food source. So where would you want your fish population to be? Would you want it in the lag phase? No. Would you want it in the deacceleration phase? No. You would want it in the exponential growth phase, won't you? So here you would want not the people not to overfish, so the fish population doesn't drop into the lag phase. All right, so here the environment now plays a very important role in population size, and there are two types of factors. So here's the abiotic. A means no, bios means life. So here these are the density independent. It is not dependent on population. Okay, so it is density independent factors, and for example, this would be the drought or a flood. Biotic factors are density dependent. They are density dependent factors. So let's see what I'm talking about. Here is the density independent abiotic factors. Here's a flood. So the flood is happening both here where there's less population and in an area where there's more population of mice. But if we look at the death rate, it is approximately same. 60, 64 is not much different. So here a flood or a drought, this is density independent, not dependent upon population. But if we look at competition, well, competition is biotic factor. Why? Because it's dependent on the population. Let's look at this. When there is density is low, every woodpecker will have a tree hole. But here when the population is high, not all the woodpeckers will have a tree hole, okay? But also, what about predation? Here, let's see. When there are only two mice, if they cannot find a place to hide, the hawks cannot find them. But they will find a place to hide because there are more holes, right? So when there are two mice, the population is low, they will find a place to hide, hawks cannot find them, predation is 0%. What about here? Where there are lots of mice and there are fewer holes, of course all the mice will not find a hole. So the predation will be higher. Hawks will find the mice, will be about 50%. So once again, what I'm trying to explain is predation is a biotic factor. It is going to influence, it is density dependent, it is going to influence, coming back here, it is going to influence population size. All right, so I guess with this we come to the end of our presentation. Yes, I don't have any more to say, and so if there are any questions or concerns, please stop by my office. I thank you for giving me your time and attention, and I hope this presentation was helpful to you.